It's time now for Your Money's Worth with your host, Mick Bazzuly. Now, here's the Mickster.
10:02 on a tipsy Tuesday here in sunny South Florida. Well, I don't know how long the sun's going to come out. It's been quite brutal weather over here in South Florida. We haven't had any good news here in South Florida lately. I mean, we've all seen about the two kids lost up in Jupiter. It's been a terrible experience, what the family's going through. And, you know, Joe Namath's been involved with it now. He's offered $100,000 to any information they could get from anybody as to what happened and hopefully the safe return of these two young kids, 14 years old, on their way to the Bahamas, which I find, the exuberance of youth will get you that way. And like I said, it's just been bad news. We hope and we pray for a great outcome in this. And I'm not sure, as time is ticking away on trying to find these two young kids, basically the exuberance of youth led them to take a 19-foot boat and try and make it to the Bahamas, which is roughly about 44 miles from where they left the port. And, of course, we all wish them well. You look around in the news today, and you need a Xanax when you turn on Fox News. You need a railroad car. You got to need a Valium the size of a Volkswagen when you take a look at what's going on, especially in the world of politics. I mean, could Hillary Clinton have more baggage? Do we really think that she's going to be a great president of the United States? I mean, she comes off as probably one of the most evil human beings to walk the planet, in my eyes anyway. I know some people might disagree with me, but I think there should be a certain amount of integrity in the White House, and I don't think she brings it. And then you have Don Trump, who seems to be capturing all the news lately, and you look at the Donald, and if he can buy his hair, people say he's an idiot and this and that. The guy's worth $11 billion. He didn't get there by being a Class A moron, a granu disgraziato, as they say in Italian. He got there by being basically a genius. I mean, he's a Wharton graduate. He's got an education to choke a horse. But he looks like he flies off the handle a little too much. And then you got to turn around and you look at the rest of the Republican ticket and who's running there. I mean, Marco Rubio. He looks a lot younger than he actually is, and what he says, his message is pretty clear. You know, how he feels about certain things. I think he's an up and rising talent, but I don't think this is exactly his field right now. You got about 16 or 17 people. Everybody's been running in the Republican ticket right now because it seems wide open. You got the Jebster, former governor here in Florida, he's running, and he seems a little lackluster. And it would be fair to judge his brother's actions. Like I always said, had George Bush only had one term, he would have went down probably as one of the greatest presidents in the United States. It's a fine example of hanging around too long and allowing bad things to happen, like the collapse of the whole economy. But I think we were destined for that anyway. So when you turn on the news today, how much do you trust them? That's the whole thing. And it just seems it's like bad news after bad news. It's enough to make you get a nosebleed. So I've decided, for the sake of my blood pressure, not to look at the news for a week or two and see just how things pan out. I could get secondhand news from some of my friends as far as some hot issues, but I think I'm going to turn it off for about 10 days, especially now at this time of year here in Florida. Good news is football camps are opening all over the United States today. Big cities. Everybody's hoping Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay turns out to be what they expect he will be, which is a leader, and to take that team from the obscurity of being a perennial last-place ball club to bring them back to the glory days. Over here in Miami, hopes are high. I know in New York, speaking to my friends over there with the Jets, they seem to think that their defense will be the number one defense in the league, and they think their offense will turn around. I don't know too much about that. I know the Giants are happy. Green Bay seems to be looking right. We've got people all over, and they're telling us from the sports point of view. And the economy will actually jump during football season, believe it or not. Bars and restaurants will be packed. Sports bars will be making money. College football will be underway. And I think it's a great thing for the economy to see that, all brought about by a sport like football. Baseball season is now over 100 games, most of these teams. Yankees are doing well. Mets are right there in the hunt. The big cities, the Dodgers, the Giants, a great rivalry. They're nipping at each other. And even small markets like Oakland and Kansas City seem to be in the hunt. So right now, as far as dollars being spent in Major League Baseball and football in the upcoming season, I think it's a good time for the economy. Stock market's doing well, although it's taken on a chin in the last couple of sessions. It's down to where it was in the beginning of the year. But all things considered, the market's doing well for the simple reason nobody can put their money anywhere else to get any growth on it. I think right now, if you put money in the bank, what's the growth? I think they're paying less than 1% on a CD, 1.5%. So you think you're shot in the stock market. I know if they raise interest rates, naturally more money will come out of the stock market and go back into conventional bonds and try and get yourself a safe return on your cash. But all things considered here in the United States right now, I got to say, despite Washington, despite what they've done to the economy, in spite of where we stand in world stature, it's the strength of the American people which really keeps this country moving forward. And we're going to be bombarded. The next year and a half is going to be awful as far as putting on the TV and watching these politicians go out head to head and start to go ahead and destroy each other. Is there anybody really credible when you think about it? You got 20-some-odd people running between the Republicans and the Democrats, and all we can field is a bunch of people that go out, except Dr. Ben Carson, who I think he would be my candidate of choice, is somewhere on the ticket. I do think if Don Trump went and brought Ben Carson in, he would have a good chance of taking out Hillary. On today's show, we got a lot of things going on. We're going to go over and be over at the Blue Moon tonight for the Bellamy Boutique. Bellamy Boutique, owned by Sammy Tocco, one of my dearest friends. I love Sammy. There's a picture on the screen. Beautiful girl. She owns one of the top boutiques here in South Florida. She's having her I say semi-annual. She does it like twice a year, 3 times a year, whatever. But anyway, it'll be at the Blue Moon, which is on the Intercoastal Waterway right off Commercial Boulevard here in South Florida. She'll be doing her fashion show, bringing out the rest of the spring and the fall edition. The lovely models there, I know most of them. They're wonderful people. They'll be modeling. The Blue Moon will have 500 to 600 people there for sure. I know tables have been basically taken. Most of the tables, there's still some seating available. You'll be able to purchase right there online. So, guys, tell your wives, your girlfriends, or both of them. I don't know. If I had a wife, I'd send her over there because you really want your woman to dress well. You don't want her wearing a muumuu or anything like that when you take her out with the guys. I mean, especially an older woman. I mean, here you are, you married the love of your life. All right, she's 40-some-odd years old. You go to bed with Cameron Diaz, and she goes through menopause in the middle of the night, and you wake up with ZZ Top. I mean, nothing could be worse than that. But if you put a good outfit on her, okay, and Bellamy Boutique, Bellamy Boutique has beautiful, beautiful outfits. I sent a bunch of them up to my daughters. I would suggest you show up tonight at the Blue Moon around 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. The show starts, I believe, at 6. So you want to get there a little early and jockey for position so you'll be able to see the models as they come trancing out. And that's BellamyBoutiqueFL.com, BellamyBoutiqueFL.com. And I'm looking forward to seeing Sammy. Sammy Tocco. Okay, so somewhat of a socialite here in the greater Fort Lauderdale area. She's been around the block a few times as far as, with different businesses. She's a successful young lady. And I tell you, I'm very, very happy to meet her. Also joining me in studio today will be the boys from musicianstream.com. Musicianstream.com. And they built themselves a hell of a business model. What they've done is they've basically filmed local bars, local establishments, and some of the great bands that we have down here. Okay, Jamie King Colton. I mean, there's so many fantastic young talent, raw talent, Charlie Sullivan. So many good people, and they'll go into an establishment. They'll cover an event, maybe the boat show. They'll cover maybe a Taste of Fort Lauderdale, a Taste of Pompano, the art festival over on Las Olas, some of the other great things that we have here in season, and they'll stream it live right on their Worldwide, right on their website, which is musicianstream.com. I know they built me a network. You can catch me at musicianstream.com/Mixter, Mixter. They built one for my dear friend and former radio partner, Jeff DeForest, on the Defo. He's been around for a long time, one of the greatest talents here in South Florida, or anywhere for that matter, in my opinion. I always said he's the greatest broadcaster in America. And he's up against some great talent out there. But they've gone ahead and they've put this together in their business model. Now that they're getting into licensing, they're talking about going into a public offering and things of that nature. It should be quite interesting, the interview that I have here with Jory Staten, the founder, whom I go back with more than 12, 14, 15 years in that area. So we'll be coming back with that. But and a little update on my boys here at Rocky Mountain High. What a drink. You're going to reach for this by name one day. It's a hemp drink, a marijuana drink without the stuff to make you a lunatic. Same boys involved in Red Bull have now had this, and we had them on the show. We had Ton Schumann and the founder, Jerry Grisafi. But Rocky Mountain High, THCZ is their symbol. I have a whole sample pack here. It'll be coming to Florida pretty soon. And it should rival. They brought on, in fact, some of the guys that took Red Bull out of bankruptcy and turned it into the giant that it is today. So look for great things from Totally Hemp Crazy, THCZ. That's their symbol trading on the OTC, NASDAQ OTC. And their drink, Rocky Mountain High, different flavors. At the Blue Moon tonight, I'm going to have myself my vodka and lemonade with Rocky Mountain High. We'll be back right after this with Jory Staten from Musician Stream. I'm the Mixter here on 1470, a Beasley broadcasting station, broadcasting live on AMP TV and WWNN radio throughout the world.
Are you thinking about getting your GED diploma? Well, here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a number of pep talks that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You know that feeling? People look at you and don't believe in you.
You want some gentle encouragement.
Then you're on your way to your GED diploma and a better life.
But I know they're probably just a little bit nervous. You can find it in yourself to take that first step.
You can improve your future. You can do this. I know you can.
You need to start pushing yourself.
Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up! Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need to get your GED diploma, we've got a pep talk that's right for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and find free GED classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education, brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hey, y'all. This is Cedric the Entertainer. You probably know one of the 29 million Americans living with diabetes. I do. My dad has type 2 diabetes. What I didn't know was that diabetes led to nerve damage and burning pain in his feet and hands that causes him great discomfort. A condition called painful diabetic peripheral neuropathy, or diabetic nerve pain. 1 out of 5 people with diabetes has this pain, but many don't talk to their doctors about it. They don't think the pain is connected to their diabetes, may fear what the pain means, or try to deal with it alone. But when I saw my dad was finding ways to work around the pain, I knew he had to do something. Step on up. If you have diabetes and burning, shooting pain in your feet or hands, don't suffer in silence. Have a real conversation with your doctor and take a step towards some pain relief. Visit steponup.com to learn more about your symptoms.
Back on the show here on 1470. I don't know if it's going to rain today out there. It's just tough. Tampa Bay, there's swimming over there. I heard that I spoke to my daughter Eileen, and she told me that there's actually catfish swimming in the streets. I mean, that's how bad it is over there. They just don't have any percolation. The water lands and sits there, and you got to watch out for water moccasins, alligators, ex-wives, everything over there in Tampa Bay, as far as I'm concerned. Right now, I'm going to bring on a good friend of mine, a guy who's been around the block. I think he's one of the greatest talents when it comes to the internet. here in South Florida. Certainly one of the greatest I've ever met, Jory Staten from Internet Stream Network. How are you, Jory?
I'm doing good, Mick. Good to be here.
It's funny because you and I go back, I guess, to around 2000 when we met sometime when you stuck your beak into a conversation I was having with another client of mine over at Christopher's, the old Christopher's, the old meat market.
Sure.
And, I've watched you do some extraordinary things over the years as far as the internet goes. And you know me, I'm still trying to work the TV changer and the food processor at my house without cutting my hand off. What got you into this business, as far as streaming live? And I know you've, going back to the days of Tom Penna.
Sure.
I remember the first time I met you, we tried to put a deal together and it didn't work with another public company that I was involved with. And I remember that Michael Dell had come in and offered you guys $21 million to buy your company, and you turned them down back then. Tom Penna did anyway.
Yeah, actually, it was an offer to buy 40% of the company at that time, but we elected not to do the deal. What got me involved in the whole thing is it's a little bit different. I just looked at the internet in its infancy and thought it was the greatest forum of communication in the world, but not clearly defined for the end user. It seemed as if they were always leaving out the end user, leaving out the consumer. They were kind of building the internet for...
They didn't know how to make money with it at the beginning.
Well, monetizing it was certainly an issue, especially when it comes to audio-video applications. You take a look at live stream and Ustream and a lot of the different big companies out there that their business models have failed, and they're in debt. They're constantly getting money from venture capitalists, VC firms to keep themselves above water, and it just doesn't work out for them. My play on the internet was a little different. I always felt that the internet was being built from corporate America down and needed to be built from the individual up.
And that seemed to be proven because nowadays it seems the individual is what's monetized this, the video stream network.
It's always been that way, but for some reason the internet just didn't start off that way. Everything that we do revolves around the consumer. If you're a doctor, you need patients. You're a lawyer, you need clients. You own a grocery store, you need hungry people. No matter how you look at it, the consumer always drives the marketplace. What we've done with Internet Stream Network, which is basically our parent company that owns musicianstream.com, Church Stream Network, and Sports Stream
You're
Network.
Actually streaming churches now and going in on the different days, Sundays, so on and so forth. So if somebody can't get the church, they can log on and they can actually see their own church.
Absolutely.
Rather than some other station like an ABC affiliate or somebody like that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
It makes sense to me. I mean, if you're going to go to a church, you may as well go to the one you go to.
Absolutely. So if you're, you've been attending the same church down here in South Florida for 15 years of your life, and you're a 20-year-old guy, and all of a sudden your job transfers you to Washington, you can still attend the same church, the same Sunday school, do your Bible studies. We take it a little bit to the extreme in certain circumstances.
Right.
Like on Church Stream, we put in Bible gateways, so while viewing sermons, you can follow along with Scripture and all that kind of stuff.
It makes a lot of sense. And, not to get into the holy roller aspect of it, but you also cross bridges when it comes down to, let's say, local talent in a restaurant or a bar playing. You're able to walk in there through Musician Stream and film them. Like, I've seen you done. We got a great Jamie King. He's fantastic. You know that.
Oh, Jamie King, he's on our advisory board, world-class musician.
Okay. And, he's been around the block. And he has a great following, so that if they can't make it out to the lounge or wherever he's playing, the club or an event, they can log on and catch him live. And you derive your revenue stream basically from the advertising.
Yeah, that's what we've done. Most streaming companies, their models are completely the opposite of what we do. They all want to charge the venue for the live stream itself or charge the artist. Our model is not to do that. Our model is to allow all of the local talent from all different areas to be broadcast live. And then we allow the small mom and pop businesses in the area to advertise on the broadcast channels. So they're able to get both local and global exposure for pennies on the dollar. And then when you take a place like South Florida, which is such a transient society, over 100 million people will travel here in 2015.
They take it back to wherever they go.
Exactly. How does that guy in South Florida market to those individuals and consumers in New York that are not here yet?
And I find that even with Rocky Mountain High. Okay, they're going to break into the South Florida market. The fact of the matter is, we have Mickey Mouse that lives here. Everybody comes to South Florida, and they'll come over here and they'll try their product just like they'll try your product, or they'll remember the place they were at that night, and they'll be able to pick it up and say to their name, "This is where we were that night when we had a good time," or whatever. But the point is, they take it back to whence they come from, be it Green Bay, Wisconsin, be it Detroit, be it New York City, be it and now you've actually opened New York City up. You've licensed the company that's doing fantastic.
Yeah, we brought
up in the New York market.
Sure, we brought Dan Mayer in. Dan Mayer is the director of our Big Apple channel up in Rochester, New York. We've got streaming beginning up there. We're talking with places up there like Brian's Backyard Barbecue and some places that bring in a lot of world-class talent and a lot of local talent. It's the local talent, in my opinion, that drives consistent broadcasting and consistent advertising.
You also cover events. I know you covered quite a few events here in South Florida where you might have 150, 200,000 people. In the Airland and Sea Show, what is it, a couple of million people over a 3-day weekend, which is, is back on track again. So you're able to get the big exposure out of that. And what will help you down the road, and I've said it all along, is that now we've talked about going into licensing agreements and going ahead and setting people up in business throughout the United States, throughout Canada, throughout Mexico, who want to go out and they want to do this for a living, because it increases your advertising base and your exposure. And that seems to be something you're working toward right now.
Yeah, well, the whole idea is to master the model down here in South Florida. Obviously, we have some big advantages down here. If we were launching this from a Green Bay, Wisconsin, or from Oshkosh, it wouldn't be quite as easy for us.
Not as romantic.
Right, it's a lot more romantic. We have the South American population that's tuning in. We have people from all over the world, and like you said, they take Musician Stream home with them, and now their friends and family are watching. Hey, let's show you where we were in South Beach. They're broadcasting live. So there's a lot of benefits to the actual location that we started this, but it's very replicable.
Right.
And the idea is very simple. Master the model here, and then cookie cutter it throughout the United States.
Yeah, and it's funny because, we talked about certain territories like Manhattan. Manhattan would need 6 or 7 representatives because it's so massive. The New York metropolitan area, which is the 5 boroughs, Queens, Brooklyn. You might need but they would have territories which they couldn't cross the licensing agreements and so on and such. Like Tampa Bay, you probably could get away with 1 or 2 up there, but in Manhattan, you'd have to have at least a dozen.
Well, ideally, we're able to go ahead and we're able to license it territorial. And the other advantages that we have is we've put certain features, functions, and tools and applications in there, like our business directory, which the business directory, you can search for businesses via what I call zip map postal code delineation. So you're in New York, you want to search businesses within a 2, 5, 10-mile radius of your home.
That's the sphere of influence, usually about
exactly.
About 10, that's your universe.
With the internet as big as it is, people still want to touch it and feel it and get somebody on the other end of the phone. I know this. Every time I order something on the internet, 5 minutes later I call the 800 number to make sure that they got my order and that everything was processed and done correctly.
Right.
So we know that the viability of the internet still lies in the brick and mortar businesses.
Oh, no doubt about it. It's good to sustain your
They make up
visibility.
98% of the marketplace.
Absolutely. I mean, you can see it even with take Sears for example. 30% of their sales is over the internet now.
Sure.
Okay, but the fact of the matter is, the internet is bolstered by the fact that the stores are right there. You can go out, you can pick it up. You don't want to wait 3-4 days.
Sure.
You want to go pick it up. And a lot of these companies now, I'll give you an example. Okay, Rocky Mountain High sold 1 million cans of its drink on Amazon in less than 3 hours the first day they were there. I mean, this is because where can you get it? Where can you? Because they're not in this immediate area here in South Florida, but you can go to Amazon and you can order it. The same thing applies to the internet when it comes to sales. Okay, on a mass scale, you're going to get to that point. Now, this is the whole thing with your business model. Local people who go ahead and they get a licensing agreement with your company,
right?
Whatever they make, from anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000, you provide them with all the equipment, the cameras, the computers, and then all the advertising revenue that they bring in their community goes in their pockets. So they're in the green from basically day one.
Sure,
now
we provide them with all the back-end support, the servers, the technology, the banner placement, the code writing, all the customization of channels, which is something that we feature. We're able to customize channels, just like we did with musicianstream.com/Mixter. It is customized to you. We find it's much more likely that businesses are going to advertise if it's theirs. If we customize it as theirs, they're more likely to spend some of their money on advertising it, which in turn helps us and all of the other channels that are in the network.
And
it's an aggregation.
People.
It's an aggregation of it all.
It really it seems to be a perfect business plan. You know, years ago, Tom Kozlowski from RP Summit.
I know Tom.
Okay, Tommy's a genius. And he said, Mick, and you know, he comes from the school of Ogilvy Mathers, and he's been around for a long time. He said, nobody ever invented anything. What they do is they take the actual invention, and it's how you apply it. It's the application of that. And that's basically what you've done. Is if you've taken what they've been provided to you and turned it into an application that really is a serious contender in this industry.
Absolutely.
You know, and I see it. And when you go ahead and you license a franchise, or we'll call it a licensing agreement, not a franchise.
Okay.
Those people are not only in the green, but where you derive is as they drag in 5,000 to 10,000 viewers, you're able to add that to your overall bottom line of total viewership. And if you do that multiplied times 50, now you got 500,000 people to 1 million people viewing Musician Stream that day, which now gives you the international and the major chains like McDonald's, Burger King.
Sure.
And that's where the revenue for Musician Stream would be derived. Not only on the local level for yourself and the communities that you're in, but in the overall national advertisers, which is your overall goal, according to what I read in your business plan.
Well, sure, and not only that, it's the national advertisers that basically offset the cost, allowing the mom and pops to participate. The cost of doing business would be far too high. The way it works is there's really dual banner rotations, dual sliding logo banners, or what I call billboard placement on the stream channels and on every channel, whether it's an archived video or a live video. And one is for the national advertisers.
Like Red Lobster, which you already have.
Sure, Olive Garden, the family of Darden restaurants. And then you have the banner rotation, which is for local advertisers. And those local advertisers are demographically placed. Obviously, if you're Jimmy's Pizza in Fort Lauderdale, some guy watching in New York ain't buying a pizza for you to deliver.
But let's put it this way, they're not going to get it.
Right. It's not going to be 30 minutes or less, that's for sure. So everything is done demographically, and everything is done with the fundamental premise of giving everybody global exposure, whether you're Aerosmith or whether you're the local guitar player. We believe that local talent is to be, unleashed, not harnessed.
Well,
that's the model.
Even the E Street Band played at the Stone Pony for years.
Sure.
Bruce Springsteen, before he was recognized, and it took him years. He had his first hit, and we didn't hear from him for about a half a dozen years. And then all of a sudden, he caught on, and he became naturally the boss. But it came from which was MTV, what made him. I mean, MTV didn't exist in 2000. I mean, in MTV in 1980, 81, 82, that's when MTV started to get themselves together. We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back right after this. I'm the Mixter here on 1470, joined by the boys from Internet Stream Network and Musician Stream. We're looking forward to it on a Tipsy Tuesday here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We'll be back right after this. Don't go away.
What do you want to be when you're older?
Hold on, it's like a deep question.
When I'm older, I want to be a singer. That's my goal.
I'm not sure I want to invent the supercomputer, but I definitely want to build the supercomputer.
I want to be an inspiration.
An organizer of like do-gooders.
I want to be a veterinarian. I want to help out animals and work with them.
I want to be a media mogul. Just rule the world.
When I'm older, I want to be anything but the one that doesn't fit in, the one that people don't love.
Everyone deserves a dream.
Everyone.
But some of us are depressed,
Anxious,
Scared.
Angry.
Alone.
don't feel like ourselves.
We can't even focus on the present, much less the future.
If that's you, say something.
It's okay to talk. It's okay to share. It's okay to get help or help someone.
Talk to someone. It helps. And people will listen. Add your voice at oktotalk.org.
oktotalk.org.
Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here at the Uptown Karate Club, where we're about to witness an incredible display of, well, it's hard not to call it anything but a display of stupidity. Hey, buddy, do you really want to whack that pile of 2x4s with the part of your body that you think with? You know, there are easier ways to prove you're a... Whoa! That's gotta hurt! Like I was saying, there are easier ways to prove you're a man. For instance, registering with Selective Service when you turn 18 shows that you're a man who's responsible and in charge of his life. Plus, it guarantees that you'll have the chance to receive college loans, job training, and government jobs. And best of all, it doesn't hurt a bit.
Register with Selective Service within 30 days of your 18th birthday. Online at www.sss.gov or at your local post office.
Ooh, that's a nasty bruise.
Oh, it does hurt.
Is that a splinter?
$10:32, back on the show. I'm the Mixter, your money's worth, and I'm joined here by Jory Staten. And I got to tell you, we were talking earlier, about, my background as a sportscaster and things along those lines. But high school football, high school basketball, I mean, you're talking about thousands and thousands of people who attend these games. They have their son playing, their daughter. You have volleyball matches. We have the beach events here at the Ocean Manor.
Sure.
Okay, he has some tremendous events there, Frankie, over at Ocean Manor. There's a whole market out there. I mean, this is the whole thing that I find intriguing. When you go ahead and you license somebody to go ahead and you train them how to do this, there's just no end to the events and the thousands of people that attend these events, including high school football. You're never going to get an NFL contract. They saw this years ago when they came up with NFL films. Okay,
Sure.
Major League Baseball, same thing with them. But on the lower level, on the high school level, or even the small colleges, it seems to be a market that's wide open for you right now to step into.
It's huge because, like you said, about never getting an NFL contract. It's not really even an interest for me. The red tape, all the stuff that you'd have to go through. When bottom line is, you take a high school, one high school here in South Florida, and look at how many sports
30,000 people just for a high school football game at night.
And then you take the compounding numbers of their friends and family and parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins.
That aren't in town who can't see the kid
Can't see it, and nobody's there broadcasting it because who's going to foot the bill for the airtime?
Right.
For us, it's simple. We go out there, we set up the live broadcast network, customize the channel. It could be sportstreamnetwork.com/Piper High School or whatever it may be. We embed their channel. We can embed it on their own current website so we can allow the stream to be shown up at multiple places. And then we go ahead and we sell advertising to everybody involved, Mead notebooks, the Gap jeans, Levi's, everybody that sells
the
product.
demographic of the kids that are going to school.
Sure, and that's the money-spending marketplace.
That is the money. I was just going to say that. That's like the record industry. Nobody's going out for a guy my age or your age. They're looking for the kids. They're the guys that go ahead and buy the CDs. They don't even have records anymore.
No.
It shows you how dated I am. But, it's amazing. You go in a record store, you don't see any records anymore.
No.
Everything now you can download it. You don't even, who would ever think that you would see Blockbuster be a thing in the past? I mean, they were opened up on every street. Wade Huizinga, he started out with 2 in Texas. After he got done selling Waste Management, which he started with 1 garbage truck. You want to talk about talent.
Sure.
All right? And turns that into a mega empire. Then takes over 2 beat-up stores over in Houston and turns it into Blockbuster nationwide. And today they're out of business. They're gone.
Gone.
Now, it's just amazing. And what's ruined them is things like you.
Well, you know what it is that, when you say that, right? The internet has shallowed the pockets of a lot of different industries, music being one of them. Like you just said, there's no more market for CDs. You can go to YouTube and pretty much find anything that you're looking for, download MP3s, all kinds of stuff. Our position is not to hurt any of those industries, or not to be competitive, but to be compatible. You take musicians, for example. We have the ability to put in pay-per-view gateways. We have the ability to allow musicians to have their own broadcast channel, where we will do custom revenue sharing with the advertisements that are sold on their channel.
And that's an excellent thing for talent scouts that may not take the time to fly in to see Charlie Sullivan or Jamie King Colton, but they can log on and they can see them live and how the reaction is from the audience as well as their music and the sound. And I know at the beginning you had issues with sound. Most of these sites do. Your sound comes out clear and the clarity, it's unbelievable. It's like being there.
Sure, I'm not going to tell you how we do that. But what I will tell you is, what you're talking about, the exposure that we provide. We use a promotions company here in South Florida called A1 Promotions Group, which is Freddie Jens and his wife Chrissy. They do a phenomenal job supporting everything local. Then you take a place, for example, like Mickey's Tiki Bar over here in Pompano. We're broadcasting consistently live from Mickey's, right? While we're broadcasting the other night, I get a message from a lady up in Baltimore, Joyce Bellinger, who's headed down to South Florida and wants to know if she can hold her birthday party event at Mickey's. All simply because we set up a camera and she was able to attend the show from her home.
So these are the benefits that these places do have.
Sure.
And
it's huge exposure.
In the old days, it used to be in print. Now my good friends, Rick and Ellen Schweitzer from Round Town Magazine here, which is one of the best magazines you're going to find. Somehow you guys got to hook up on this, because what Rick and Ellen do is they send out their photographers into these different establishments, and these magazines, I guess you'd say it's a newspaper. It's published weekly, or free to the public. They can be picked up at any lounge, any big place, throughout the South Florida area, and it basically gives the tourists an idea of what's happening in town, where to go, so on and so forth. We are the tourist capital of the United States. Capital. There's no doubt about it.
And I'm anxious to meet Rick, because a lot of people like to say that print media is dead, and that's not really the case, because it's not dead, and it continues to stay. And the reason is because even when my show ends, unless you're going back to watch a recorded version of it, you're not going to necessarily see the advertisements. But you still may pick up that Around Town magazine that's been sitting there for 3 weeks and get to view those ads. So it's the stayability factor.
It's not only that, but people like to know where they're going when they come to town.
Absolutely.
And what's hot in town. He has photographers out on the beat constantly taking pictures, of people in different bars, and they want to see their picture in the paper. Let's face it.
Everybody wants that 5 minutes of fame, kind of like I'm getting right now. I'm usually on the other side of the camera.
You've been around a long time, but there's a lot of companies that you could intermingle with, like Around Town Magazine, the publications, the different ones, South Beach, what do we have? We have 15, 20 publications, magazines, so on and so forth. You seem to intermingle with that just here in South Florida. Now, can you imagine Los Angeles or New York City and your model once it takes off? And I believe it will, because I see the interest that you have. You got a staff now, almost 20 people involved, full-time with your company, and it's growing. It's growing. Where do you think you're going to be in about a year and a half or 2 years on this? Where would you like to see it?
I think when it comes to, exit type strategy, there's several different things that we're looking at right now. We're looking at doing an acquisition with a public company. As you know, reverse mergers are no longer. So, we may acquire.
And you would be the surviving company.
Right.
Which gives you all the advantages of raising capital or jumping state borders, as far as if you wanted to go franchising rather than licensing. But you'd rather go in licensing, and I can understand that. A license is just as good as a franchise, but it gives the mother company a little more leverage when it comes to licensing.
Absolutely.
As far as restricting people what they cannot do, what they can say. And legally, it seems to work better with the licensing, because if they break any of these things, you can give them a warning. If they
just
consistently
cancel the
break it,
licensing
you just
agreement
cancel
if
the
they
license
continue to violate
and
our
turn
rules.
turn the switch, and they're off the network.
Biggest advantage we have is what you just said.
Turning the switch.
Where we're safe for investors is A, the fact that it's Internet Stream Network. All the eggs aren't in one basket. You've got Sports Stream, Musician Stream, and Church Stream, all very viable entities. And on top of that, no one can take anything from us. It's not like we're a finance company and you drive away in the car and don't make your payment and we got to figure out how to get the car back. We just turn you off.
And another thing, I got to honestly say this. I look at the news today and I see how tainted it is. And the FCC, don't forget these NBC, CBS, they're up for licensing every year with the FCC. And I have to believe that, honestly, that the FCC, if they don't like what you're saying, you got to remember, all these government agencies are run by human beings. And every human being I've ever met in my life has some sort of an agenda. And if you don't fit into that agenda, they're going to bring heat on you. Just like the IRS with they're going after the conservatives, the IRS, which is still under investigation. It's as long as people are allowed to say, listen, I don't like your ideology, I'm coming at you. I'm not going to renew your license, so on and so forth. And I believe that's why the news today is not trustworthy. You don't have government regulation. You're open. You're the web.
Well, we don't necessarily have government regulation. However,
you basically police yourselves.
Well, yeah, we don't allow any pornographic material. We don't allow any hate material. We're not going to allow one race to degrade another race. Not on our network. My philosophy's always been this, Mick, is, we live in a world that draws a line in the sand, and every time it upsets somebody, we move the line. We're not moving our line.
I know you
just
a long
simple.
time, and I know
We're
you've
not
had
moving our line.
all different races and creeds work for you over the years. When you were with Tom Penny, you had a staff of 30 people, and it was intermingling with everybody.
Sure.
I mean, I know where you come from. I come from that same... I'm cut from that same cloth. Number one, I'm colorblind. I always have been. And number two is, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
I get along with everybody, and I like it that way.
I tell people, I don't care what you do, just not on my network.
Well, that's true. You built it from the beginning. It's your baby, and I can see the people you brought in. They certainly don't try to wrestle with you. You've had your infights with some of your people, some of your investors.
Sure.
But they've all worked themselves out because good business... to me, good business, the cream, finds its top. You're going to rise with the tides. A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
And I've seen that over and over with you throughout the years. The drawback is the same drawback everybody does. You're not alone in the world. There are people out there trying to click at your heels, and
all
there are
the
people
time.
that you're clicking at their heels.
All the time.
It's the big fish eats the little fish scenario in business. And I tell people, you're not alone. And a fine example, and you learned that with Tom Penna, when you had something that was nobody had, a week or two later, everybody had it. It's funny. Somebody comes up with an idea for an automobile here in the United States, and then somebody in Italy actually invents it. Same thing with the telephone. Alexander Graham Bell here, Marconi and Mariucci over in Italy.
Sure.
Who really invented the phone? We say it's Alexander Graham Bell, yet Mariucci seems to have invented it a year before Graham Bell did. And you see it over and over. And now with the internet, what did Gates do? He didn't invent it. He stole it. All right, and you saw him. In his movie, he bought
Mick,
a typewriter for $50,000.
That's why, Mick, we focus our development more so on the business model,
right,
as opposed to the technology. Something you said before is so true. Google came out with a statement that the billionaires of tomorrow aren't going to invent new technologies. They're going to take existing technologies and model them to work in today's marketplace.
And apply them, like Kozlowski told me years ago.
Got to be able to apply it and monetize it. I watch so many companies that come out and they have these great and wonderful things, but they lose, and not knocking anybody, but you take a Twitter, right? Because at the end of every show, people go and tweet on you just assume that they're a successful company.
They're not.
But they lost $300 million in the first quarter of the year. How successful is that? And yet they're still $70 a share. So I look at a lot of those things and I go, I just can't figure that out for the life of me.
It's called monetizing. And remember when the internet began? AOL was the biggest thing since toilet paper. And what was the first one you used to have to dial in and put your phone on? Oh, I can't think of the name of it. But they're no longer here.
Oh, God, man. We watched more companies. Literally.
All the portals, the original portals.
We used, back in that day, everything with a .com at the end of it was a huge success. And then, really when Enron came out, when the whole fall of Enron. A
company that actually sold nothing.
Sold nothing.
That had no revenue streams other than within themselves. It was nothing but a Ponzi scheme like WorldCom.
Sure, I used to
XOXO.
I used to look at those companies, Mick, and I would say if something scares the world of investment money and investors pull their money out of the market, you're going to watch these companies go down the toilet in rapid fashion because they had no revenue model. They were basing it on hot air. It was all hot air.
And people bought into it. You know what's funny? I said it a long time ago. If you can't describe what a company does in 2 sentences or less, don't buy the stock.
Sure.
Enron did everything. They had 160 offshoot companies. Basically what they did was they took $1 and they rotated it 160 times.
Yep.
So it looked like all the companies had that $1, when in retrospect none of them did. And the $1 that they used was borrowed. And that's what eventually collapsed all those dogs. Okay? And yet our government allowed it to happen.
Absolutely.
They knew. The same thing with Madoff. They let him go on and go on. He knew where the bodies were buried, so nobody wanted to go after him.
Sure.
And it was one guy who was tortured by every year they'd say, why can't you be Bernie Madoff? He said, because it's impossible. These numbers are not real.
Sure.
Every other person involved in the industry was losing money except Madoff.
And it's always amazing that the officials, they don't come in waving their flags until the CEO's walked out with $400 million and the CFO is sitting in the Caribbean someplace and all of the shareholders have lost everything. Then they come in waving their flags that maybe there's something going on here that's not correct.
Because
it's like, where were you?
It's a politic game. It's who knows where the bodies are buried.
Sure.
Which is the way American business or worldwide business has come on today. We're going to come back and we'll talk about it more. It's funny. American Greed. I love that show, American, and people will do anything for money.
Oh, yeah.
Ain't it the truth? We'll come back right after this. We're going to take a short little break. We'll come back on this Bellamy Boutique Tuesday here right on 1470 AM. I'm the Mixer, joined by Jory State. We're having a good time. Don't go away. Come right back. 10:48 your time.
Parkinson's disease is a neurological movement disorder affecting an estimated 1 million Americans, including many under age 40. It has no cure. Parkinson's is not limited to how a person moves. It can also cause symptoms like depression, fatigue, and impaired speech. Today, there is a new diagnosis every 9 minutes, though Parkinson's can be present for years before being diagnosed. The American Parkinson Disease Association is the largest grassroots network in the United States, working to help ease the burden and find the cure. For more than 50 years, APDA has funded pioneering research and provided critical support to those affected by Parkinson's. Visit apdaoptimism.org today to find out how you can help millions live with dignity and optimism. Your action today will help APDA put an end to Parkinson's disease.
Let's talk about the X's and O's of family entertainment. Every parent in Florida knows the importance of being able to draw up an activity that'll get you out of the house for a couple of hours. But it needs to be affordable. It needs to be family-friendly. Above all, it needs to be fun. Now, let's talk about high school sports. Bang for your buck, school sports provide the perfect game plan for your family. You'll enjoy all of the drama and excitement competitive sports offer. You'll be supporting the future leaders of our community in a meaningful way. Best of all, you can take the entire family without breaking the bank. Heck, you won't even dent it. Now, enough chalk talk. Let's get out there and see what's playing at the high school in your community. School sports. Good for our kids, good for our community. This message presented by the Florida High School Athletic Association and the Florida Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
10:50 back on a Tipsy Tuesday here in South Florida. I'm the Mixter, Mick Bazzuly, joined by Jory Staten from Internet Stream Network, which is basically the mother company for Musician Stream and everything else. I want to remind everybody, Sammy Toko at Bellamy Boutique will be having her fashion show over at the Blue Moon. There's the lovely Sammy in the right-hand corner of the picture. I mean, she's just a superstar among superstars in my eyes. I mean, I love her to death. And some of the, I guess you got to say, some of the foxiest women in the world are going to be wearing these outfits over at the Blue Moon, which, if you're coming, is off of I-95. Just take it east toward the beach, right to the inland waterways, right over the bridge on the left-hand side. Show starts probably around 6 o'clock. I recommend you get there earlier. I mean, there's going to be a ton of people there. Blue Moon handles about 500 people. It's one of the finest restaurants that you're going to find. And they got a DJ there tonight, and it's going to be one heck of a show. Bring your checkbooks, bring your credit cards, bring whatever you can, but do show up for the Bellamy Boutique fashion show at the Blue Moon. I'll be there, and I will be there. We will be using Rocky Mountain High tonight with lemonade to have my vodka with my traditionally one or two drinks. That's all I'm allowed due to my blood pressure situation, which, by looking at the news, as I said earlier, has gone up considerably. But I'll see you at the Bellamy Boutique fashion show tonight. I mean, a lot of good people. Rosie will be behind the bar. Rose Miller and her husband, Javen. They'll be tending bar tonight over at the Blue Moon. I know Bryce and Barron will be there. Okay, Paula, will naturally be there. She runs the show. And Sammy and her elusive line of models, which I got to say are some of the prettiest girls here in South Florida. Beth Bernstein, of course, will be there. You know her from the radio world, and quite a few others that I've come across in my short period on this earth. Right now, let's get back. The name we couldn't think of, the first one, the first internet portal, and Joe, our producer behind the glass, brought it up, was Prodigy. And what happened to Prodigy, which was Sears, Joe? Yeah, it was Sears. Then AOL came along, and then a bunch of, you brought up others. And
Global Crossing.
Global
the .coms became the .gons. That was the real reality of it. They were fundamentally incorrect.
They couldn't make any money. The only one that did, and Prodigy did make money, but they were old, antiquated. You had to put the phone in the holder. Sure. I mean, it was something you saw, off of, 3 Days of the Condor. It was that type of technology, and then it just evolved. It seemed AOL, they went out and bought Time. They went out and bought Warner Brothers. They spent their money buying all these things, and look at them today. I mean, people say you're still using AOL.
That's why we focus on business models and not technology, because technology changes so fast. That it's almost impossible to keep up with. But good, sound business models don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, your business model, I tell you the truth, if you're out there, if you're lugging around, and you got licensing from $15,000 to $30,000, $35,000, depends on population. I know you do your feasibility studies in each area that you go into.
Sure.
You want to know how many nightclubs are there, how many city functions there are. You want to give your licensee every opportunity in the world to make some money. It goes by population, like most good companies do. I mean, you're going to pay for a McDonald's in downtown Boston, like my cousins. You're going to pay a ton of money. But if you're out in rural America, where you only got 25,000 people within a 10-mile radius, naturally, a McDonald's is not going to sell for that kind of price.
No, it's not. But what we do is, see, like you said before, when you take all of those rural locations, right, and you add up the number of consumers that they also represent, it enhances our national advertisers. Because obviously the national advertisers, the Nikes, the Gatorades, the Ford, that's where the money is. So we're able to do a revenue share with those smaller demographic locations so that, so let's say, what I don't want to do is have them be handicapped in the model just because they're in Franklin, North Carolina, as opposed to Manhattan.
The same theory that was brought up with my friend John Pessel when he wrote the book The Game, which is the best book ever written on baseball. It just came out. It's a bestseller. The key is the bigger markets pay a luxury tax, so the smaller markets can go ahead and make some money.
Absolutely.
I mean, you want to keep them in the game. You want to keep them playing, and that's exactly what Major League Baseball does. That's what the NFL does. They support teams like Green Bay. That the whole city of Green Bay's got a population of, 200,000 people?
Right.
I mean, how could they compete? But they do.
And they've been sold out for 50-some years.
The only NFL team, all right, that has no owner other than the community themselves owns shares in the team. They don't see a dime of it, but those shares are highly sought after.
Sure.
I mean, the Giants, are owned by the Mara family. The Jets by Woody Johnson. You can look around, but the Green Bay Packers are owned by the community, and yet you can't get into Lambeau Field despite all the snow and the harsh weather. But I got to say, we're going to wrap it up right here, on this Bellamy Boutique Tuesday. And I got to say, I'm looking forward to working with Musician Stream. I'm looking forward to working with you as I have over the last 15 years of friendship that we've had.
Sure.
And I got to say that I've seen a lot of drive and ambition for you. And she's, I know how hard you guys work on this.
That we do.
Okay.
That we do.
What's your next big gig coming up?
Actually, right now we're waiting for word back from Shooters. We may be doing the Rock the Dock event tomorrow, or actually
Shooters
Saturday
right
with
here on
Shooters,
the Inland
which,
Waterway.
by the way, would also feature Charlie Sullivan and Riverdown, some of the biggest groups around.
Fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Thanks for having me, Mick.
Absolutely. Listen, I want to wish everybody a happy Tuesday. Remind you, the Blue Moon, that's where you're going to be able to find the Bellamy Boutique fashion show tonight. I'll be there. Go to BellamyBoutiqueFL.com. Take a look at what they have out there. Sammy Toko will be over there, of course. My good friends at Rocky Mountain High, I want to thank them for sending me a case of this, gratis. And I'm looking forward to trying it tonight at the Blue Moon. Jory, I want to thank you for coming in. Of course, Todd Helton, who you didn't see here, okay, the president of the company, he was here, and we're going to wrap it up. We'll catch you next time. I want everybody to have a safe week, and stay tuned, okay? I'm the Mixter here at, 1470 a.m. God bless you all, and good night. Good afternoon, whatever.
Tune in again next time for more of Your Money's Worth with Mick Bazzuly. The opinions